Hello, and you are listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film, or sometimes a slightly related kind of book of the film thing. I'm Luke.
I'm Jacinta.
And this week we're talking about The Disaster Artist.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand and trust me, the book was better.
Hello, you were listening to The Book Was Better. It's a long time since those words have emerged from my mouth.
Yeah.
And this is a very interesting special episode.
Yes, interesting is the word for it.
Worthy of the number 91.
Absolutely.
Even though it's a little bit off the beaten track, actually, it's not as weird as those friggin', like when I did the Star Trek graphic novel with Courtney.
Wasn't that Star Wars?
Well, we did both.
Oh, okay. Right.
Star Wars one was pretty good. The Star Trek one, we just kind of flipped through it and talked about it.
Yeah, right, okay.
So this is way better than that.
It is. It's an actual book with a cover and a spine and everything.
And an author. Now, one of my favourite movies of all time, and you might join me on this. Yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe not in your top 10.
Probably not, no. I will say that I do vividly remember the day that you sat me down and forced me to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I hold your eyes open?
Probably.
With my fingers?
Well, open with your fingers.
I'm a man of mystery. Talking of men of mystery and secrets, Mr. Tommy Wiseau, one of the most mysterious men of all time.
Yes.
Of completely mysterious origins. 10 years ago, created a film which has been dubbed as one of the worst films of all time. But I think is definitely one of the most entertaining films of all time.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
We're talking about The Room. Now, if you haven't seen The Room, stop this right now and go and watch it. Do yourself a favour, because it is absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
And no description of it would do it justice. Rather than to say that the central character, Tommy Wiseau, is an incredibly strange, eccentric individual. He wrote, directed, and starred in it, but he's a man of incredible vision and passion. Who, I mean, you hear about Ed Wood and the fact that he just loved film and he wanted to make films, and you know he was driven by that passion and he did it. I think Tommy Wiseau is even more successful in a lot of ways because he made something that's just infinitely watchable. And he stuck to his guns against all logic and created this absolutely fucked up just trip of a film where nothing makes sense. But from the moment you first see Tommy on screen, you just can't stop watching.
No.
Like
he's like a lumpy man of porridge.
He's absolutely engaging. And I know the second I started watching him, I wanted to see more. Now, there hasn't been a novelisation of The Room, not an official one.
No, there has not.
There's a few fan ones. And we've been sent an excerpt from one before, and it was quite good, actually. But no official one exists. So the next best thing is The Disaster Artist. I was going to say The Disaster Room. I'm using this excuse all the time on the podcast at the moment. I'm just sleepy. I'm sleepy. We do this, we have busy lives.
Yeah.
But The Disaster Artist is written by Greg Sestero, who played Mark in the film. Tommy's best friend, who mercilessly, ruthlessly betrays him by sleeping with the gorgeous Lisa.
Beautiful Lisa.
Beautiful Lisa.
In her sexy red dress.
In her sexy red dress. And Greg has written this book about his experience, both his sort of origins of meeting Tommy and the actual experience of shooting The Room. Now, that appealed to me straight away because I want to know all these crazy things that happened. But what I wasn't expecting was just how incredibly funny and in-depth this thing is.
Yeah, it is a hell of a ride, like I like The Room a lot. I'm not as invested in it as you are, but from the second I started reading this book, I was it was a matter of chapters before I was laughing out loud, and genuine laughter, not kind of like little smirky laughing. It was genuine belly laughing, and that continues.
You know that we like to kick the shit out of writing on this show, and so when I say that something is really genuinely well written, very clever, very witty, like I mean it. And I just loved it. I loved every page. It's been a long time since I've been able to read something for pleasure, which is part of the reason why you guys haven't been hearing regular podcasts, but we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But yeah, just absolutely adored this book and really, literally could not put it down.
We actually were sitting in a bar yesterday, both reading the book and just both sort of, we were up to different stages of the book and both sort of just giggling every few minutes.
Yeah, it's that sort of book where, you know, I was reading your copy and then I met up with you and I had to go and buy a copy straight away so I could keep reading it while you read yours. And then I came home and kept reading it and then I kept walking into the other room and going to Suzanne. And so he says this. And I just thought it was fantastic because it's not just funny, it's actually quite dark in points. But we're going to get into all this. What better than to hear about this book from the author himself? And we were incredibly lucky tonight to have a sit down with Greg Sestero of The Room. We sat and I was going to say had a drink with him. He had a drink, he had a coffee.
He did.
We didn't. We had a drink afterwards.
We had a drink afterwards, yeah.
And I was very giddy.
You were giddy. Yes. It was like you're a shiny little anime character with sparkles for eyes.
Yeah. Look, it was really cool.
You were sitting so close to him on the couch.
Well,
he
part
kept
of that's
inching away.
Part of that's the microphone, but part of it's little spark.
Yeah.
It was very exciting. Mark, I keep calling him Mark. I call him Mark in the interview so many times, and I apologise for that thing. It's like,
and it was funny every time.
I can't separate fact from fiction. That's my problem.
Well, to be fair to you regarding Greg, you've only seen him as one character, really.
Well, I did watch
as a majority.
Yeah, I did watch a little bit of Retro Puppet Master, but he'll always be my Mark rather than my...
You want to hit your mark.
Hit your mark. So, he is in Perth at the moment to promote the book, and he did a talk tonight at the Luna Cinema in Leederville about the book. He showed a 30-minute documentary with some behind-the-scenes stuff. We'll talk about that after.
Yep.
And he did a Q&A and he had a copy of the original Room script, which if you think the one that made it to film was wacky, then this thing is just fucking balls out insane. It is absolutely bananas. And some lucky people got to climb out of the audience and read lines alongside Mr. Greg Sestero.
One particularly good Tommy. The second Tommy was...
He was a pretty great Tommy,
was pretty great. And the guy playing
the
Peter,
psychologist, Peter,
who could barely get his lines out from laughing so much.
That was interesting.
That was something.
But yeah, he's here. The Luna were very, very kind in setting up some time with Greg. And the interview you're about to hear, you actually, this was about half an hour before he went on stage in front of everyone. So it's very generous of him to give us that time. And Greg is what I loved, what surprised me about the book is how sharp and witty and switched on it is. Greg in person is quite laid back.
Yep.
Very to the point. Very warm. Liked him instantly. But he's
a very quiet, sort of mild-mannered sort of fella.
He is, and he's very generous. I mean, you see that even through his performance tonight. You know, he was very much about getting people out of the audience and sort of letting them have the laughs or ask the questions, and he sort of was there to facilitate it all. And as such, we talk, especially me, I ramble a lot in this interview, but he's very much... I felt like that was welcomed and that we were able to sort of push through and really get to some stuff. So it's about 20 minutes long. This is a sit-down Jacinta and I had with Greg Sestero earlier where we talk in a lot more detail about this book and why it's worthy of your time. So...
enjoy.
Let's hear it. All right, and look, this is super exciting. Holy crap. We are here with Greg Sestero, best known for The Room. You played Mark, who... you sort of did the dirty on the best guy in the world.
I know.
He's a saint, and you...
Lisa was just too beautiful.
That's true. So she's very beautiful.
So beautiful.
I would describe the dress as very sexy.
Yeah, the red dress.
And you're also the author, Mark, of this book. I keep going to call you Mark accidentally each time. That must annoy that's a bad thing, yeah?
Oh, it's all good. No worries.
Greg. But I just read the book, The Disaster Artist, which chronicles your time, the making of The Room. And I love how it's set up as well, because it kind of alternates chapters between you meeting Tommy and getting to know him integrated with the actual shooting of The Room. So we're going back and forth between those things.
Yeah.
And I got to say, with all sincerity, I absolutely loved the shit out of this book. It is amazing, very funny, highly recommend it. Do you want to just tell us a bit about that genesis of it and what you've actually accomplished here?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I made this movie, it was really a very surreal experience, and I always told stories about it. And when the film took off and became kind of an international cult phenomenon, there were so many questions, so many stories, and I felt like really the book was a great way to explain my side of it, to humanize the whole experience, and really to kind of give the audience a peek into what it was like to make this film, and what Tommy's journey was, and just kind of give it some backstory.
What surprised me about it, and what I love, and I can imagine this is why we're going to see a film made of your book, is that there's this universal story in the middle there, which is about friendship and about that core relationship with Tommy. That gets dark. There was this point I was laughing all through the beginning, and then I started to be like, this is getting really kind of dark. What is your relationship with Tommy now? Like, do you have a friendship still? Do you see him?
Yeah, it's kind of similar-ish as it is in the book, just a more mature version. I mean, I think when you've gone through as much as we have, there'll always be some sort of bond there.
I guess in the book we see him as he's kind of vain, he's insecure, and he's very secretive. Even I'm not going to spoil anything about the book, but there are revelations even in those later chapters of you finding out this new information about this man, even though you've been with him for so long. Mm-hmm. And I keep thinking, for a man this secretive, you've just told everybody all these things about him. How does that work? Is he behind you with this book?
I interviewed him when I was touring with the film. I was writing the book, and so a lot of that stuff is stuff that I was based off interviews, and and for the most part he said he's supportive of it. I mean, he said, what did he say, 50%? So I guess that's not a bad grade coming from him. Well,
you don't hold back in it. We were talking about how funny the book is. And I think anybody who watches The Room loves to, obviously it's an interactive film. People make fun and have their jokes about the characters and things like that. Even from the very beginning, you describe Tommy, and I love this, I had to write it down. Gene Simmons after 3 months in the Gobi Desert, the Hunchback of Notre Dame following corrective surgery, an escaped Muppet, and the drummer from Rat. So I love that straight away, that we know you're going to tell this thing. You're not going to hold back. I've always thought he was like the washed up corpse of Christopher Walken. But he's
a really good one too.
He's got that energy, hasn't he? There's just something amazing. I also loved when you use the word bizarro really early on. And that was something that really resonated with us, because we've talked about how there should be a Man of Steel sequel where Tommy plays Bizarro Superman. But nobody tells him he's playing Bizarro Superman. They make him think he's playing the actual Superman, and he's Bizarro. Would that work?
That would be a hit.
I need to know, has there ever been talk of a Room sequel?
I think fans have kind of come up with ideas, but really The Room is something I don't know if you could really capture again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fitting that it ends where it does.
You don't want it to become knowing?
Yeah, I think it was so genuine in what it was trying to accomplish that I think that's part of the magic.
It is. I want to talk to you about that because, we keep, even on the cover of your book, we hear the best, greatest, worst movie or greatest bad movie. But if the purpose of a film is to entertain, that is one of the most entertaining and successful films in that regard. It's infinitely rewatchable.
Yeah. No, I think it's bad in the sense... it's technically bad, and I think plot-wise, obviously there's no plot, there's no payoff, so in that regard it's bad, but yeah, I mean, if you want a film that's watchable and quotable, The Room is definitely that.
I mean, you couldn't replicate it. It's not like you could just take anyone off the street and go, okay, you don't have movie-making experience, but you've got passion, you want to make this thing, and they would create something that resonated as much as it has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with that because You talk very candidly about your beginnings and some of the other roles in your audition process, and I really enjoyed getting to know you through that book. And you talk about like when you go and audition for Retro Puppet Master, and you know they kind of give you a hard time when they come in, as though you know you end up impressing them, but when you first walk in, they sort of act like they're above you in a way. And I thought, but here's Tommy. He doesn't do that to you. He treats you like a movie star. He's the one that, you know, has your back all the way through when these other legitimate things don't.
Yeah.
What was that energy like? What's it like, that passion around him?
That was one of the things I always liked about him, is I felt, you know, I don't know if it was genuine or not, but he always said, you know, you can be the best and you should go after what you want. And so that's always encouraging to hear. From someone, and I think he always held me in high regard.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing to read, even in the book. I was just reading those words and going, yeah, Tommy, I can be the best that I can be, you know? So, no, that was pretty cool. I mean, he's obviously a unique character is the best way of putting that. I was wondering, with obviously the writing of the book, you do go into, in the foreword, sort of that you piece it together from interviews and all that sort of thing, but there's so many amazingly specific memories. Were they just things that you remembered? Were they seared onto your brain? Or
yeah, exactly. That's stuff you can't really forget.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to see this footage? Because I would watch 32 takes of Tommy trying to do that line.
I put together a behind-the-scenes doc that's playing tonight and tomorrow night.
Oh, excellent.
So it's like 30 minutes of behind-the-scenes stuff.
Well, obviously, I mean, people listening aren't going to... Well, they can get to tomorrow. Well, this will go out tomorrow. That might be a bit late for them to see it. But you're playing around... You're doing the show around the... You've done Sydney already.
Yeah, I did Sydney and Melbourne, so...
And we have a lot of international listeners as well. So what sort of thing can people expect if they come and see The Disaster Artist?
It's like, 30-minute behind-the-scenes with interviews with the cast from the movie, and we do like a live script reading from the original script of The Room, which is even more bonkers than the actual film.
Yeah.
And then the Q&A. So kind of like a, in-depth look at what it was like behind the scenes.
And can I ask you about the film adaptation? So the rights for your book have gone to James Franco and Co.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is going to make just an amazing film and really fits their sensibility. You know, we're talking about that core of friendship, and I can see that. Dave Franco for Mr. Greg Sestero?
Yeah.
And are you happy with that, obviously?
Yeah, I think they're a great team. So.
If there's anyone else you could have?
I haven't really thought about it, but I mean, I feel like if they have a vision for it, that's where it starts.
Please tell me James is going to be Tommy.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
He's going to nail it.
He will. It'll be just brilliant.
If there's another person that you think in Hollywood right now that has that kind of crazy passion, it's got to be James Franco. He's so, I don't know, he just seems so honed in.
Yeah, he's dialed in for sure.
Yeah.
Have you spent a lot of time with those guys then? I noticed you've got a lot of pretty nice acknowledgements in the book at the end.
It's been kind of crazy with all the traveling and stuff, so I've had some conversations, and I think, they really get it, and I think they'll do a terrific job.
Yeah, I'm really excited having read, because you read that book and you want to see all that stuff unfolding. And I love that you've got the fans of the book was better, because we look at novelizations all the time. We'll be thrilled that your book has a photo section. We always talk about that. And how old? There were a couple of things you were a little bit shy about. Like, how old is Tommy, do you reckon?
How what?
How old is Tommy?
It's tough, He could be
anywhere between like 40 and 600.
Yeah, he could be like 200 years old.
Do you reckon he really thinks he's a vampire?
He's always kind of alluded to that, so I'm sure there's some sort of truth there.
I've got another theory. Do you reckon he could be a Frankenstein? Because you think about that, that's someone that's cobbled together out of different parts, could explain the asymmetry, doesn't talk about his past because he doesn't remember anything like pre-resurrection, and he just wants to be loved. He wants a friend. So there's an angle.
Yeah, maybe we've cracked it.
Just maybe next time you're hanging out with Tommy,
I'll try to
just ease it into conversation. Like, you're not when he's like, how Greg has a sex life.
Yeah.
Just be like, you're not a Frankenstein, are you? Some kind of Frankenstein.
I'll definitely try to work that in.
Yeah, that would be awkward. I've got to really stress this is a great book. I kept wanting, having to walk into the other room and read bits out. I love that bit where your mum is like, Tommy, please don't hurt my son when you're going to go to LA with him.
Yeah.
And you tell it.
Yeah, my mom was really concerned that I was just going with this random guy to LA. And so she's just saying, like, please be careful, like, can I come with you, and blah, blah, blah. And then finally she's just like, one more thing, no sex. And I was just like, oh my God.
But I know the bit that I really loved, though, was where she goes, don't hurt my son, and you go, that you're thinking about this, and in your mind you're thinking the worst thing that Tommy could do right now is chuckle creepily, and he goes, I would not, said Tommy, chuckling creepily. Yeah. Like, it's such a vivid picture, and if you've seen the film, but I love that it's not just a gimmicky thing, and the film itself is not a gimmicky thing. Like you said, the fact that it is so earnest and it comes from a real spot, and just that portrait that you paint, like all those things that start clicking together, like Tommy Wiseau having an Aladdin poster in his toilet. And then I think that's why we've got those gratuitous Disney store shots in the film, and all those sorts of things in the past.
Yeah, they all kind of start to come together.
Yeah.
It's a story really about him and the way he views life.
I don't want to make it all about Tommy, because your influence in that book and getting to know you through that book is absolutely fascinating. That way that you're willing to go on this journey with this, I think he's described as a Willy Wonka type person at some point. Because that's the thing. I mean, if this was a fiction, that's the thing you would have to sell. Why does this guy...
Yeah, it would be a tough sell as a fictional story.
Yeah, why does this guy, this like young, attractive actor guy, go under the wing of... And you tell that in a convincing way. Mm-hmm. I love when you say... when you talk about the acting class, and the line is everybody else was playing with chemistry sets and Tommy was setting the lab on fire. And that's what clicked for me. That was like, that's why we're going with this guy, because that, anything is
what's
suddenly...
he going to do next?
Yeah, anything's possible all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I've got to say, one of the scenes in the movie, if they do it, is when you describe Tommy reciting Shakespeare's sonnet 116, was it? That was, I guess it's hard to kind of grasp in words, but yeah.
And when I did the audiobook, some of those scenes were the most fun to read.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know there was an audiobook.
Oh, well.
Okay, well, that's great.
Go and get that.
Yeah. We're going to have to definitely do that.
Can you give us a little... couple of seconds of approximation of Tommy's sonnet reading?
Let me not do the marriage of true mind.
That's fantastic. I'm not going to ask you to do this, because I almost wanted to get like just a little page or something read from you, just so that people who haven't read the book can just get a sense of like the style. And we won't put you on the spot. Maybe if with your blessing we can add that to our thing and just read a little bit.
I have a couple excerpts that ran online.
Yeah?
That you can use.
Yeah? Oh, well, that would be fantastic, because every single page has something in it that I enjoyed and kept me engaged, and I really want people to get that sense that this is something a lot bigger and
than just the making of a bad movie.
If you'd never even seen the film, it would still be entertaining just to go on that journey, and then as a supplement to the film, but then to dig deep. It finished too soon for me, and it's not a small book by any means, but I just wanted to know more. I want to know, what was that reaction like at that opening night?
What do you think? It was just laughter from beginning to end.
Yeah. And was he okay with that?
I think he was a little stunned, and then I feel like he kind of was trying to find a way to work with it, and so a week later he tagged on at the end of the trailer, experience this quirky new black comedy.
Oh, yeah. Which you totally debunked, which I've read before, this claim that it's a comedy, but you clearly debunked that. Did it take you a little while to sort of come to peace with the film?
I really kind of saw what it was before before it was even made. So for me, it was just kind of this joke, this kind of a home movie project I was helping a friend make. So I didn't expect anything from it.
Yeah, but it's a $6 million home movie.
Yeah, right.
Project. Which makes it it's just fantastic in terms of vanity projects. Love it.
Yeah, it's the ultimate vanity project.
All right. I feel like we've talked way too much. Is there anything else you want to share?
I have one more question. You've I'm assuming you've been to heaps of these sort of fan events and room screenings and that sort of thing. Has there been one particular screening or fan moment that really stands out to you? One particularly crazy screening?
You know what? It was probably back in 2010 at the Ziegfeld Theater in New York, which is like one of the most prestigious, largest cinemas in New York City. We did a kind of a midnight screening thing there, and it sold out like a week in advance. And I remember going and seeing this line of all these people and hearing the people there say that it was the first time that the Ziegfeld Theater had been sold out since the re-release of Star Wars, and I just remember thinking, how did this happen, you know? And I mean, since then, it's just gotten crazier and crazier. And
Well, to be fair, that's sort of how I felt tonight in a way. Like, this is like meeting Luke Skywalker or something, you know? Like, it would be in my top 10 favourite movies. It really would, because I base that on how many times can I watch this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And Star Wars is one of those films that I can. Like, there's always something happening. And when I'm watching The Room, I'm enjoying one bit but anticipating the next bit, you know? And that makes a really big difference. What's your favourite thing that people yell out, or that you've heard someone yell out?
I think there's a part in the film where he's like tearing the room apart, and there's a dresser there, and he pulls out one drawer and then pulls out the next one, and he like tosses it over. So when audience, they yell when he pulls out the drawer. It's like 1, 2, and then they just say "fuck it." There's so many great things that they come up with, and really, it's the audience that kind of makes this film so much fun.
Yeah, you've
got to tell you the very first Perth screening here they ever had. I to be honest, I almost wasn't going to come. I was seeing my favourite band in the entire world down in Freo, and I went, you know what? No, I need to come, and I left that gig early. I came here. It has been a decision I've never regretted. It was the most mental experience of my life. The theatre was full. People, when you couldn't even hear the dialogue, people were just screaming the entire time and going absolutely crazy. It was honestly one of the best things.
It was insane. And I took a friend a couple of months ago, having not seen it for about a year, and people yelling out new stuff just as big. It was just fantastic. I like doing when he picks up the newspaper, yelling, "Oh, hi, newspaper."
Oh, yeah.
When he does that. My girlfriend likes yelling out "backney," which there was that story about the back acne in the book. She was the first one to yell out "double denim" in your first wardrobe sequence.
My favourite thing to yell out is "sit down, Denny." When he just randomly sits down, that's my favourite.
Yeah, so, like, you're part of history now. You just need... Have you got an action figure?
Not that I know.
You need to get on that.
You get Hasbro onto that deal.
Yeah, at least a pop vinyl or something like that. Yeah.
Look, you know how deep pop vinyls are going? I can't imagine they'd be too far away.
Dude, gotta happen. Greg, thank you so much. I know, it's really... That's all. I know, that's terrible. But,
hang on, complete this sentence. If I had $1 for every time someone yelled out, "Oh, hi, Mark," to me, I would have...
Well, we weren't doing that. And we weren't going to do anything like that, but I love that you talk about meeting Robin Williams and going and doing that sort of thing. So I was like, no matter... That's what I felt reading the book. I thought no matter how much we like stuff this up or come across as, you know, like if we say the wrong thing or, you know, that you make yourself so accessible in the book that you have been there, you know, you've been that person.
I've kind of done the same thing. So, I mean, if you love movies, that's normal, you know?
Yeah. I mean, dude, love the movie, and we're really looking forward to your show tonight. Can't wait, very excited about that. I'm sure you're going to get a massive reception, and we really appreciate you taking the time beforehand to talk to us. So thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
And we're going to pimp this book for the rest of our days because we love it.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right.
We're reading every episode until it's done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that was Greg Sestero. Wasn't that awesome?
It sure was.
We haven't listened to it again. I'm just saying that. I hope it was.
Yeah, all that nice coffee making noise in the background just added a real metropolitan feel.
It was pretty noisy in there, and he's very soft spoken, so hopefully that all turned out and you could hear it. But yeah, that was a blast.
Yeah,
and I'm not
that
kidding.
Was cool.
That was like meeting Luke Skywalker or someone. Because that is a movie. That's the movie I've seen most in the cinema.
Yeah,
yeah. Just adore it. And it was such a kick to see the behind the scenes stuff. It was 30 minutes. sort of set up to promote the book, but doesn't actually content-wise overlap with the book that much.
No,
it was all sort of new material. And Greg himself is virtually absent from the book. I think he's conducting the interviews.
Yep.
And you see him in the behind-the-scenes footage, but really it's a chance to catch up with some of the other cast members, like Juliet, who played Lisa, now with black hair.
Yeah.
And that was really nice because, I mean, we spent so long making fun of these people, but it's really nice to see them humanized and hear them talk about their experience. And what you learn throughout this book and throughout the documentary is that, everything that we were sitting looking at going, what the fuck is this? Why is this happening? They were doing the exact same thing on set. And I think that's a really positive outcome of this book, is that it gives Tommy a fair bit of shit, but it really enables us to take the burden off those other cast members, and gives us an opportunity to laugh with them, and for them to laugh with us in a way.
Yeah. You get the feeling from those interviews that they have really made their peace. Yeah. Any shame that they felt immediately following the release of this movie, for the most part, they're willing to be in on the joke now.
And whereas Tommy, I feel he can take the brunt of it, because Tommy is indestructible, probably literally, because he's immortal. He's an immortal vampire Frankenstein creature. But I just feel like he can carry that. And the thing is, we all love Tommy. He'll always be the star. Most of the questions tonight were about Tommy. We asked a lot about Tommy, because he is such an enigma. You want to know. And, it was his film. It was his passion. It was his thing. And it's right that he should take some shit for it.
Yep.
And it's right that these guys should get a little bit of leeway. So, and the audience, man, like when Lisa's mother came on screen,
mental
cheering. The biggest surprise was we're all waiting for oh, hi, Denny. And Denny shows up towards the end of it.
Yeah.
And we think of him as a Peter Pan kind of sprite, despite his receding hairline and the fact that he's older than Lisa in the film. But, Denny was looking old.
He was looking super old. Like, he looked like a little old Italian man that might serve you at a deli.
Put on some weight, hair was grey, had a cap on, looked a little bit sort of dazed. In the Q&A with Greg afterwards, someone said, "What happened to Denny? He got old." And Greg was very gracious. Like that.
Yes.
Like, I don't know, maybe drugs or something. Speculation. No, we have no idea. But, I still enjoyed seeing him, though.
Oh, yeah. It was fantastic. Because almost everyone looked pretty much exactly the same, apart from Denny.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone looked really good, actually. And Greg himself looked great. And he's the perfect ambassador for the room. Because he was the line producer. So he was there from auditions, like conception auditions, to playing the role. And he also has lived with Tommy. And Tommy's not a good ambassador for his own film because he can't understand a fucking thing that he's saying.
They had to have subtitles on the documentary because he was just not understandable at all.
You'd be better off interviewing R2-D2 or something for the sense that it would make.
You'll fire anybody you want. You see this guy, you can fire him.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. He makes Yoda look eloquent. Insane man. But I love him to death. So, So we got the Q&A, a lot of questions asked. Not a lot of revelations beyond what we were able to speak to him ourselves about, really. We were quite thrilled to get the confirmation that James Franco will be playing Tommy Wiseau in the filmed version of The Disaster Artist, which I think is such a great choice, and I can't wait to see that performance. Although one of the treats in the Q&A was, and the performance in general tonight, was just the fact that Greg did a lot of Tommy's voice. And having lived with the man as long as he has, he really nails Tommy's cadence. And
I mean, that's the thing with the writing of the book. When you're reading Tommy's dialogue, you hear his voice in your head. Yeah, we can hear everybody. I mean, it's so... Like, I wasn't expecting the depth of conversations in there. There's a lot of detailed conversations. And I know certain things were recorded. There were cameras running all the time. Phone conversations were recorded. But That's what I was fascinated with. That's why I asked him, you know. There's only so much that you can get from an interview. There must be, you know, he wouldn't have been recording that conversation with his mum in the car, you know.
But Tommy's that guy that always gives you a story, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of times that we've talked about just tiny little nuancey things in the room itself. You imagine if you were hanging out with this guy and he was doing crazy things. Sure, you only lived that once, but you probably told everybody you knew about it. You probably told that story so many times that, you know, it got kind of stuck. I would. I'd be going, and then fucking this happened, and this happened. You know, so you got to give him credit for that. So, yeah, actually really pleased to recommend a great book this time. I know this isn't our usual fare, but this was just such a good opportunity. We're putting this interview out on the FP Cast feed as well. I want as many people to hear it as possible. And obviously the book was better is very supported by you guys, and we appreciate that. And, you know, we've been a stranger for a while, so I wanted to make sure that I said hello and you got to hear this, because you guys know that I'm pretty passionate about the room. And was there anything else you wanted to say about that experience?
He had amazing hair.
Yeah.
His hair was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy.
He's super cool.
Yeah.
You feel really kind of, he's so at ease that, you know, any kind of, not jitters or nerves that we might have had before coming into this interview were just gone.
I'm always just worried about, like, the technical stuff or that it's also, you know, you don't know the kind of, like, people do interviews with newspapers and all this sort of stuff, and they get asked questions from people that haven't seen the source material, or they get asked questions that can only appear in a mainstream newspaper or whatever, and it's very difficult to get across what we do to somebody who, of course, has never heard of us or what we do and what the tone is. And I think in that respect, it was cool. He was really cool. So thank you so much, Greg. If you ever do listen to this, you've got some big flights and things happening. Maybe you'll get a chance when you're absolutely bored shitless, although I would probably watch TV instead. Or play a game.
Catch up on the
something.
Kardashians.
Yeah, just something like that. Well, if you just indulge me, just to wrap up, I want to apologise for the fact that there hasn't been a regular weekly Book Was Better. It's something that, as I get busier and busier, it's very difficult for me to organise, particularly due to the guest stars and organising guest stars. And even then, sometimes it's totally my fault. Like,
hey, Luke, I'll come over and do a Book Was Better this weekend.
You were so ready to do that, and I didn't read the book. But we've had a lot of shit on.
We have. To be fair.
You know, we did Supernova, and I've been doing a lot of photo shoots and things. So look, the Book Was Better is something I am very passionate about. It will always be happening. It's not going anywhere. Just bear with me. It comes in like short bursts, like suddenly. You know, suddenly I'll have a few in a row because everything will align and everyone will read the books and we'll have the time and we'll do it, and everything else quietens down. So I think people just have to remember that there's always going to be a podcast from me every week, whether it's FP or Book Was Better or something else, which I'll get to in a sec. So listen to one of those. If you haven't listened to FP Cast, which is the podcast Jacinta and I do, Fruitless Pursuits, maybe you listened to it early on and you thought, not so keen or whatever. I think it's got a lot better. Yeah, we've sort of fit into our groove, so to speak. Yeah, well, fit into your groove. No. And
see, that's what you'll get from the podcast.
That's pretty much most of the podcast.
You'll get me saying some words and Luke pulling innuendo out of them.
But listen to episode 48 where we talked about Edge of Tomorrow. That was a good one. Yeah. You know, listen to so
we do have a bunch of, I think one of my friends has gone back and is listening to a bunch of the older ones. We've got a few sort of, I don't want to say event ones, but there's that, our free pass lists.
Oh, well, which celebrities would have sex with.
Which celebrities we'd have sex with. That's a pretty fun one.
It's a fun show. I think if you like Book Was Better, you'll enjoy it. So that's always going to be out. That's Mondays. You know, I'm not gonna let people know. Like, sometimes we're gonna miss them. Sometimes, but we'll miss Book Was Better. But there'll always be something. Subscribe to all the feeds, and things will be coming up. And the ScarJo A Go-Go podcast, which is a solo podcast I'm doing where I rewatch and review every Scarlett Johansson film from the beginning, which is 1994's North, is very imminent. I think that will launch this week. I just got the last thing I needed for that to happen. So we're going to submit it, and if it all goes through and iTunes are happy, that's going to be out as well. So please look out for that. I'll be announcing that on Fruitless Pursuits and on the Book Was Better Facebook page. That's a lot of housekeeping.
It is.
But look, shit is happening. I do have novelizations scattered around different guest hosts. You know, I'm hoping to get Sabrina back. I'd love to get Jess back. Always happy to get yourself, Courtney, Lizzie Unpronounceable. I should get Xavier back. Leah was fantastic with the Babysitters Club. Would love to get Leah back if she would indulge that. So all sorts of shit happening. Thank you for your patience. You can always find out what's going on the Book Was Better Facebook group. Just come and join that. Look in groups for the Book Was Better. And I love you guys. Thanks you for your support. And thanks again to Greg Sestero. And thank you to Tony and everyone at the Luna, who were really great to us.
Yes, absolutely wonderful. And it was a fantastic experience to be able to talk to Greg. So thanks, guys.
And we'll catch you
on the flip side.